Okay, so this is Google Classroom. The thing I like to do is number the assignments. I think it makes it easier to navigate a big old course stream. So you'll see at the top is some due dates of what's coming up. I try to space it out over the week. This little topic section is where you can tag certain posts in your stream. So if you click on a button, even if you posted it a really long time ago and it's buried in the bottom of the course stream, clicking on the topic button will allow you to open those items. So it's a nice place to keep reference materials and that kind of thing. The unit's set up to start with a unit overview. So that's assignment number one, and then it advances through what you'll see here on the unit organizer. So this unit, I called it the Innovation Research Project or something like that, is organized around that, a research project looking into an innovation, so cleverly titled. It's set up as a way to help kids learn and practice research skills. It builds off of a unit teaching informative writing skills, at least that's the idea. Structured around a week, with 2 built-in formative assessments, and then of course the project itself would serve as the summative assessment for the unit to see if kids got out of it what they're supposed to. All of that is clearly defined in what is called a performance scale, which takes learning targets and organizes them according to cognitive complexity, which is a really wordy way of saying that it clearly defines those specific goals talked about by the UDL-IRN. It tells kids what they're supposed to learn. On the right side, you'll see the learning targets themselves, which are adapted from Common Core State Standards. On the left side, they're translated into what can you do statements that are more student-friendly for kids to be able to read and think about, can I do that or not? The idea is that kids can look at it. If they're at a 2.0, they can hit targets that are slightly below the standard. If they're at a 3.0, they're hitting targets that are on the standard. If they're at a 4.0, they're hitting targets that are above the standard. I designed this unit to use with case study B, and we would just have to assume that processing a learning scale and all the language of learning scales is something that is already baked into the classroom culture, because this is a routine in my own classes I've taught early on in the school year. It's not part of a unit, it's just part of the class. For which we can thank this guy, Robert Marzano, and his book,
The Art and Science of Teaching.
The crux of the project is this: it asks students to select an innovation or an innovator of their choice. They have to research that innovation or innovator and support it with 3 sources. But everything after that is sort of up to them. They have this big menu that is sorted into levels of cognitive complexity, which is just a measure of how difficult cognitively a task is. The majority of them are at the 3.0 level, which is Marzano talk for on standard. But perhaps you notice that those at the 4.0 or above standard level are weighted with more points. So that's a way I thought that could help incentivize students to kind of push themselves beyond what is comfortable and hopefully learn more as a result. Students can kind of choose their own adventure. Each task option has a rubric that goes with it and some supplemental resources, although some options come with more support than others. This was an attempt I had to try to make sure that the tiers of intervention were not a place, as Basham puts it. Not only do many students in the case study have learning disabilities, there are also many English language learners. A lot of them are described as kids who wouldn't necessarily do their homework on their own or get started on their own. So these supports are there as options, but if this were really my class, I would definitely nudge kids who need that support towards that support. Really, the whole unit is set up to help combat that lackluster motivation. Kids have options for how they do their project, yes, but they also have options of what to research in the first place. And they even have the ability to select how much support they think they need to be successful. It's not as though they're out there on their own all the time. There is a conference set up. They take a quiz over the project requirements that would let me check to make sure they understand what even is going on. But they have some freedom that I hope would encourage them to take the research process and run with it. The specific evidence-based practices I deployed here were graphic organizers and the whole Schaefer writing model as a whole, a vocab strategy that helps kids track their own knowledge of a word, and really the whole concept of motivation and neuroscience described in the readings from the Annenberg Learner website. If you like what you see, or if you just want to look into it a little bit more, I encourage you to join the Google Classroom class and take first dibs. See you.